going to show you a little shortcut. So when we're working in painting class, our focus is on painting much more than it is on drawing. So if your drawing and sketching skills aren't really strong, you can always do your own photography work or find some photos and references that you like, print them out on your computer or off your printer, and then you can turn them over in any place where you plan on drawing that image and transferring it over. You can just go through with a pencil, and I put it on the side so it covers more space. And what we're doing is we're putting graphite all over, because when we flip this over and draw on the other side, it will transfer this graphite to the paper that we're going to be painting on. And then I don't have to spend a lot of time drawing and fixing my drawing. I can just go in, get the drawing transferred, and then focus more on the painting aspect of this project. You just have to make sure that you have most of the spaces filled in. You don't want any gaps, because if there's gaps, obviously there's not going to be any graphite to transfer over to your other paper. So then you can just take your paper and then you're going to line it up wherever you would like it. Sometimes I hold it up to the window so I can see where it lines up first, make sure my paper is where I want it underneath. And then you can go back through, you can trace it with a pencil, but sometimes that gets a little sharp on the paper because you want to push firmly. So I like to use a ballpoint pen, and then you can just trace around the edges of the different petals or whatever it is the objects are that you're going to be working with, okay? And then when you finish, you peel it up, you can see it transfers that graphite over and you'll have the image on your paper. Let me speed that up for you. Once you have your image transferred, then you can start thinking a little bit more about our next steps. And we're going to be working in that resist or watercolor resist or masking. So I'm going to be using some tape. I'm going to be using a white crayon today as part of this project. So some of these areas will still stay white, and then we're going to do some other interesting things with them. First, I'm going to start with my background. I'm going to use some of those watercolor techniques to really make that interesting. But I'm going to do some masking of areas first to give it a little bit different look. So places that I don't want to have paint show up with while I'm working on the masking, I'm going to make sure that I firmly place that tape down. But I want to be careful when I peel it up later that I also don't peel up my paper. So be careful with that. Now you can kind of do this random, or you can figure out how you might want to make a pattern. So after I tape off a pattern, and you can decide what pattern you want to use on yours, I go through and I start with my background first, and I'm going to do a wet on wet technique for this. I want to use complementary colors. So since my sunflowers are going to be a bright yellow, I'm going to use a blue for my background. I do have some leaves in there, so I'm going to throw in some deeper colors of green in my background as well. I use some water drops here and there to help spread it around, and then I blow it with the blow dryer. Then I'm going to work from the center out on these. I'm going to use a salting technique for the middle because, as you can see in the image, there's a lot of dots that happen in the middle of there. So I got to scratch off that salt when I am finished, and then I'm going to go in and I'm going to start working on the actual sunflower petals themselves. I start with the lightest color and work the darker colors into it. I'm going to carry a little bit of that yellow out and around the outside edge just so that it carries through all the way. Deepen some of these value shadows in here, let it dry, and then peel off the paint. You can either leave those white spaces white, or you can go back in and you could paint them maybe in reverse colors. What I'm going to do is go through and do it with a washed out or faded look on mine. So I'm going to really add a lot more water to the paints so that they're thinned out as I work through all of these. So it'll be very similar to what's already there, but it almost has like a faded effect when I'm finished, where maybe those stripes were left out in the sun too long.